Okay, good morning, and thank you very much for joining us. I am Yori Falani alongside Asukwa James.
Good morning, Nigerians.
Okay, now, quite a number of issues are still, as it were, on the burner, not necessarily on the front. You look at the whole Unilag affair, the Unilag imbroglio, it's on the burner. I didn't say it was on the front burner. Then there's the WAEC one you were telling me about just before we came on.
Yeah, because WAEC is starting today, and so many parents are already apprehensive about how safe, the schools will be for their children, because they are very, very vulnerable to the virus. So
And we only recently got this confirmation that yes, we will participate in WAEC. Before there had been a lockdown because of
and
COVID.
we are not even thinking of the WAEC
At all.
We are already thinking of maybe next year and all that. But now that the thing is starting, so all parents are supposed to do the all efforts, to make sure that their children are protected in any way.
Okay, and talking about protection, let's go to the society, protection of society. That's always a concern for this administration, and of course, first line charge for that would be Nigeria Police, protection and all of that. And in this connection, the police is, but I guess that's what they do all the time, but they're particularly thinking of an aspect of our protection, and that is what the Inspector General of Police is referring to as the proliferation of small arms. So small arms are those guns you can put in your pocket, Abi. So if you can put it in your pocket, if you can conceal it, I guess it qualifies as a small arm. I'm not saying it's a technical definition, no.
There are other arms that are longer than this shotgun.
But that one won't qualify as small arms now. So, in any case, the Inspector General of Police is taking a very, very dim view of the proliferation of such arms and has actually issued a directive to all his commissioners of police up and down the land to swing into action and make sure that they, check this wave of unlicensed arms. It doesn't matter who you are. There are all sorts of groups that, are able to bear arms if they are licensed. Now let's find out a lot more about it. Our friend, Deputy Commissioner of Police Frank Mba, Force PRO, is joining us on Skype. Mr. Mba, he's on the phone. Good morning, Mr. Mba, and thank you very much for joining us. Okay, this is Yori Folani in studio with Asukwa James. Mr. Mba, can you hear us? Oh dear. Yeah, so.
Good morning, my brother in the studio. Good morning to our teaming viewers out there.
Indeed. Mr. Mbad, to dive straight into business, facts available to the police seem to be indicating that there is a proliferation of small arms, and the police naturally wants this checked. How bad a situation is it?
First of all, let me say I am struggling to hear you. But if I did get you clearly, you were trying to find out about our concerns, particularly the concerns of the Inspector General of Police, IGP Mohammed Abubakar Demo, concerning the continued proliferation of small arms within our polity. And you actually wanted to know how bad it is.
Yes,
correct.
Yes.
Yuri, I will tell you, indeed, it is very bad. The situation is bad. It has always been so, but it is worsening. And the facts are all out there for everybody to see. Africa, in particular, has fought several civil wars over the years. In the Horn of Africa, in the Sahel region, in Northern Africa, and even in West Africa. We've had several wars: the Liberian Civil War, the crisis in Cote d'Ivoire, the crisis in Sierra Leone. In fact, as a matter of fact, there was a time where the entire countries within the Mano River region, the Mano River area, comprising of Liberia, Guinea, Sierra Leone, Cote d'Ivoire, were all in crisis. I'm not talking about the Nigerian Civil War because that happened long time ago. So as you begin to have this crisis, a lot of weapons find their way into wrong hands. And in the West African sub-region, the ECOWAS Treaty, which also allows for free movement of goods and persons, also make it easier during this conflict for both combatants and non-combatants to move from one part of West Africa to the other. This, for a very long time, helped in spreading the movement of these weapons. And then recently, the activities of terror groups in Burkina Faso, in Mali, in the Sahel region, the collapse of Libya, the destabilization of the entire Sahel region, crisis in Chad, Niger, and then the activities of Boko Haram. And so many other factors, weak border controls, and all these factors have fueled the proliferation of these light weapons. And then we need to protect our borders. We need to look inwards, deepen our intelligence, mop up these arms, and our governments at all levels also need to rise up to the challenge and provide security for our people, strengthen the capacity of our police forces, strengthen the capacity of our intelligence agencies, and strengthen the capacity of our military, so that we'll be able to perform our constitutional responsibilities effectively and efficiently. We also need to mobilize our community leaders, mobilize traditional rulers, and so that we can work in concert to deal with some of these emerging and protracted challenges.
Well, thank you very much, because you've given us some indication, some preliminary indication as to how the commissioners of police are going to be going about it. You talked about those that they need to mobilize. But for some perspective, Mr. Mba, licensed small arms, licensed firearms, and especially small arms are going to be out of this search. For some perspective, is the information available as to how many small arms licenses are actually available in the country as issued by the police?
We have a database on all arms that are officially licensed. You know, the Firearms Act places the responsibility for issuance of licenses squarely on the Inspector General of Police.
Yes.
Except for some categories of arms where you must obtain your license directly from the President and Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces. The majority of the rest arms falls within the purview of the Inspector General of Police. And so we have a complete data on the number of Nigerians that were legitimately, officially licensed to bear arms. But Yuri, there's something you need to understand. The bulk of these licenses, they are not issued for people to carry arms and go about the street and shoot at people. If you look at the Firearms Act, the bulk of the licenses that the Inspector General of Police issued are for hunting, are for games. They are not for so if you are given a license for games and for hunting, and you use that weapon for something else, you are in breach of the law. You are in breach of the Firearms Act.
Okay.
And the police will come after you. And the worst case scenario is when these arms are smuggled into the country and you then possess them unlawfully. You keep them unlawfully. You are also breaking the laws. And before you come in, I also need to stress this point. There are some families where probably their father, maybe my father or my grandfather had a legitimate license for a weapon, and then today my father is no more, and so Frank Mba thinks he can inherit his father's weapon and inherit his father's license. The law frowns at that. The license of your weapon is just like the license of your vehicle. You can't inherit my license.
It's a non-transferable license.
Your firearm license to your son.
It's non-transferable.
So if you have a father and your father dies, your responsibility within a space of time is to take the license and the weapon and hand it over to the police. If you continue to use it, in breach of the law.
Okay. Again, thank you for that clarification. The purpose of the question, when I asked how many official licenses there exist, I was trying to find out a ratio. If, for example, just off the top of my head, if the police has actually issued 2 million official licenses, I wanted to find out how many unlicensed arms are thought to be out there. Now, if it's something like 15, 20 million, then I think we have a big problem. But if it's closer to that, then I'll say that, okay, maybe because, as has been stated, because of the Edo and Ondo elections coming up, the police is just making assurance doubly sure. But maybe I shouldn't drag the point. Thank you very much for the clarification that you have made. Now, it doesn't seem to me that it's going to be an easy task executing the Inspector General of Police's order unless people suddenly have an overwhelming wave of honesty and come forward, cooperate fully with the authorities and say, now that you've brought the matter up, I think my license needs to be verified or at least checked out. It's like the commissioners of police that have been saddled with the responsibility in each of the 36 states and the Federal Capital Territory. They really have their work cut out for them.
I absolutely agree with you. It is not going to be an easy job. Policing have never been a tea party, and it will not start being a tea party today. So we know it's not going to be an easy job. We know it's not going to be a jamboree. We know it's not going to be an Owambe. But we are cut out to do this job, and this job we must do. We've got both kinetic and non-kinetic approaches in policing. We got core law enforcement approaches and non-core law enforcement approaches. We also have built up intelligence around certain individuals, around certain communities, around certain groups, and we will be proceeding with this intelligence. And we will also be working with critical stakeholders in ensuring that we significantly achieve the purposes that we have set out to achieve.
Vigilante groups, security group, para-security groups, paramilitary groups, all these people, some of them bear arms, perhaps some of them with the knowledge of the police and indeed the licensing of the police. But it seems to me from the release that perhaps some might be, dancing at the very fringes of the law in this regard. Would you like to comment on that?
Like I've said this repeatedly in other fora, the Nigerian police force under the leadership of IGP Mohammed Abubakar Demo remain focused, remain committed in implementing its community policing initiatives. The implication of this is that we are desirous of building a people-friendly police. The current IGP is committed to bequeathing onto Nigerians a police that is community-driven, a police that is intelligence-driven, a police that works with its a police force that works with its immediate community to achieve its communal goals. But in doing that, we must adhere strictly with the due processes. And this is where we'll be coming in very strongly. If there is a vigilante group, a neighborhood watch, whatever name you call it, as long as they work within the confines of the law, as long as their operations and establishments are within the confines of the law, we will work with them. But no matter whose ox is God, if a vigilante group bears arms outside the provisions of the law, we will go for those arms and we will recover those arms and we will prosecute whoever is running foul of the law.
For the sake of clarity, are we talking about, because we've been using the terminology, you have been using the professional terminology, arms. The rest of us civilians, we think of them as guns. Are we talking about small arms? Are we talking about, because you spoke about arms for game, and I don't think small arms, pistols will be licensed for game. What kind of arms is in this mop-up attempt?
Excuse me. Yuri, the provisions of the Firearms Act are very, very clear. And so we will be guided strictly by the provisions of the law. The Firearms Act does not give us room for discretion here. The Act is very clear, and we will work strictly with that Act.
Meaning, if people have license, if you have rifles will be in your crosshairs. Pistols will also be in your crosshairs. Of course, it goes without saying, if anybody has a machine gun that's not licensed, well, that's his own trouble, But I just wanted to say that it's pistols and rifles.
Every weapon that is prohibited under the Firearms Act is prohibited.
Okay.
And we will go after those weapons.
In other words, no exception. No exception.
Mm-hmm. Okay, Mr. Frank, I wanted to ask, like most Nigerians who like to know, how do these arms even get into the country in the first place and get into the hands of these criminals illegally? And does the force also have the cooperation of other agencies like maybe the custom, the immigration, so that these arms don't come into the country?
At the beginning of my analysis, I gave you a bird view. I gave you an overview of the problem and the challenges and some of the drivers of the proliferation of these illicit weapons. And I also told you that part of the challenges we had, particularly in the ECOWAS sub-region, is that treaty that enables citizens of the region to move freely, both in persons and with their goods, from one part of the subcontinent to the other. Another thing that also we have discovered over time is that these criminals use all manners of concealment strategies. Recently, our operatives dismantled an international arms smuggling syndicate, and it was a big thing in the media. This was a syndicate so strong, so well organized, that they moved their weapons all the way from Libya, passed them through the troubled region of the Sahel, get into Burkina Faso, and then move them through the borders, through Ghana, Togo, Cotonou, and into Nigeria, usually through the Oyo border axis. And what do? They use different concealment strategies. In some of the cases, they conceal these weapons in bags of rice or in bags of alubo flour. And in some other cases, they build pseudo cabinets, false cabinets under the cars. And so they load them in those false cabinets under the cars, and they move them from one point to the other. So it's not like these criminals just put out these arms and then they come in brazenly with them. They adopt different measures, and this is where our intelligence capacity comes in. The harder they come, the harder they fall. and we have consistently kept pace with their trend and their pattern and their systems and their tricks. But most importantly is the fact that we have an Inspector General of Police that is well grounded. Mohammed Abubakar Demu is seen in the global policing arena as a big asset because of his long stay with Interpol, almost rising to become the vice president of Interpol in charge of the whole African continent. He has got rich international connections that is helping us. We are using the instrumentality of the Interpol. We are using the instrumentality of the Afripol. We are using the instrumentality of WAPCO and other regional pacts that we've entered with other law enforcement agencies across the West Africa sub-region. And these multilateral approaches are helping us in curbing the excesses of some of these criminals.
So in terms of prosecution, I want to know how effective are the Nigerian laws, to make sure that this bringing in or anybody that is caught with this illegal firearms don't go back, into this business. How effective is our laws? Do they have like a life imprisonment, 25 years imprisonment, or how effective? Because that is the only way that this will serve as a deterrent to many.
I believe that we have sufficient laws to deal with some of these anomalies. Of course, lawyers will do whatever is within their means. Lawyers will do whatever is within the law to extricate, to get out from the clutches of the law their clients. And so whenever we are prosecuting, we know clearly that we are coming against very strong forces. Most people that are into arms smuggling, illicit arms trade, they are not poor people. They are people who are also rich enough to hire the best of the lawyers. But we have done sufficiently, significantly well in prosecuting some of these cases. And I also want to pay kudos to our colleagues in the customs. The customs have been doing an excellent job in this regard. The Nigerian Customs Service have consistently they've been consistently handing over a lot of these suspects to us. And even in cases where, in one celebrated case where one of their personnel was implicated in one of those unlawful smuggling of arms into this country, the customs authority rose up strongly and named and shamed that officer and dealt with that officer squarely. So the Nigerian Customs Service is working with the Nigerian police force to ensure that some of these challenges are dealt with squarely.
Let me ask you, Mr. Mba, in your professional opinion, you've told us the various ways in which illegal arms enter the country. In your professional opinion, how easy is it for an ordinary Nigerian to acquire an illegal weapon?
Again, this depends on who. Desperation. When a man is desperate to do a thing, when a man is determined to do a thing, they will go extra miles, irrespective of the risk attached to taking such measures. Okay. There are some countries in the world where it is well known, that if you dare enter that country with drugs, you will be killed. It is well publicized that unlawful possession of drugs in those countries attracts death sentences. But you know what? Some desperate crooks, some desperate individuals will still attempt to enter those countries with drugs. That is the makeup of the criminal.
Okay, I was trying to establish, Mr. Mba, that hopefully this hasn't gotten to an epidemic level where arms were almost like pure water, as we say locally. And it's, I was just hoping that it's very difficult. There are no back alleys, there are no black markets where ordinary people can go. So if it is the professional criminals that the police are dealing with, then, you know, arguably the work is sort of contained. But if it has become like pure water, well, where any Joe can say he feels like it and therefore get up and go, I mean, I was just trying to find out if the difficulty index is very high for acquiring
it has not gotten to an epidemic level. Yes, we are concerned. Yes, it is a problem we need to deal with, but it has not gotten to an epidemic level.
Thank God for that.
We have some challenges that also has to do with illicit production of weapons within the country. But that is so insignificant, and we're dealing with that. In fact, that is almost a thing of the past, because we have some blacksmiths in Nigeria, some gifted hands in Nigeria that are deploying their talents negatively and helping to produce some of these locally made weapons, which are also very dangerous. We're dealing with that, and that is much more easier for us to deal with than those that are coming from the outside of our shores. But in all of these, we are committed, we are determined. In the Niger Delta crisis, we had issues so much at the beginning. At the peak of the crisis in the Niger Delta, we had to deploy extensively to monitor the waterways. But today, we've been able to contain and control a lot of the influx of the weapons in those areas. We are making progress, but we need to continue to strengthen our capacity. We also need to continue to talk to our politicians. Some of the political culture in this country promotes violence. It is some of the antecedents, some of the words spoken by politicians, even in their rallies, promote violence. And those of you in the media, you need to continue to hold them accountable. We need to continue to name and shame them when they speak words that will promote violence. Our politicians must refrain from employing thugs, arming these thugs, and deploying them to cause havoc during elections.
I want to thank you, Deputy Commissioner of Police Frank Mba, Force PRO, for being our guest this morning and indeed laying bare this issue. Wish you all the best in your endeavors.
Thank you, Yuri, and do have a wonderful day ahead.
Indeed. Thank you very much. Well, so there you go. As clear as we could get it, so we sort of know that. Well, as Mr. Mba did acknowledge, the police have their work cut out for them, but they were not shying away from the task.
Yes,
you know,
exactly.
They're going to confront it. And the police, well, I imagine it's always been a concern, but because, as Mr. Mba ended up with there, because the elections are coming and the kind of rhetoric that we are hearing, they say, they think that, look, you know, maybe we just have to, you know, put in a bit more, you know, underline it as it were. Yes. I imagine the police has not been lackadaisical about people walking around with unlicensed arms. But now they have opened their eyes, well, as it were.
Maybe it's because of the, in quotes, doomsday prophets who have been saying that there will be violence in Edo and Ondo states, election. And so the police is now throwing it, to the public and saying, guys, we know that this is what you guys are doing, and we need to stop.
And you need to know that we're
we
ready
are
for
aware,
you.
we are aware, and then we'll deal with it.
Mazi Okoroafo, good morning. You are our first caller this morning.
Good morning, Sayori. Good morning, Mr.
Thank you.
Now, Mr. Sayori, see, what I could have said is that if the police are talking, dealing about this order, they're saying, every time you hear that they are on top of the situation. They are still on top of the situation. What is happening is still happening. So what's the sense of telling us that they are on top of the situation? Now, the question police will be talking now is this, how do these ammunitions enter Nigeria? That is the question, because if you see the sophisticated...
No, but Mr. Amba dealt with the question at least twice. One, in his opening gambit, and two, because Asukwo wanted him to reiterate his points as to the different ways in which these illegal arms, enter the country.
Now, what you say, to me, I don't call it illegal arms. You don't call it illegal arms because people are using this to gain their livelihood. You say illegal. What makes it to be illegal?
It's illegal
if... of earning their income and earning their feeding every day. We say illegal. What makes it to be illegal? Now, you see, in as much as all those things are being paraded in Nigeria, it is very difficult for police to say they can stop all these things. I'm just telling us. Because the best solution is that they should find the source of these things enter Nigeria. If police authority, that is the main aim of the affair, cannot stop illegal...
Is the crisis... Sorry, sir. Mr. Amba pointed out the different crises all over Africa leading to the proliferation of small arms. Arms. Okay. All right, Mazi. But Mr. Amba was quite clear. He really laid it out.
Yeah, all the crises around Africa.
Yes. There are those who even include the unfortunate Nigerian civil war among the conversation, but in the conversation. But Mr. Amba said, I'm even taking that out. That's been quite a while. In recent times, the different engagements, official engagements of Nigeria and all those things has led to an excess of arms, people conceal those arms, and then there are also the professional criminals that are actively smuggling in these things. Exactly. Mr. Amba was talking about smuggling it in rice sacks.
Yeah, exactly, and elubo and all that.
And elubo. Oh, I don't know why elubo. Garinko?
No, he said elubo.
He said elubo, he said it. But if you can smuggle in, no, okay. Let go of the matter. We have a calling from Egbeda.
Hello.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning, Yori Folari and Asuko James.
Good morning.
Let me contribute to what the police PRO just said this morning.
Sure.
Concerning proliferation of arms. Look, our borders, they have to do a lot of job to ensure that these arms don't come into the country. So it calls to question the officers who are there. Because these arms kept on getting into this country, and yet nothing is done. So how do we explain that? Well, so, I don't know. He has explained that they conceal, they do that, but what of the officers who are responsible? The security agencies there, what are they doing?
Okay. But when you say nothing has been done,
look into.
When you say nothing has been done, the police is announcing that something is going to be done now.
Exactly.
Something is going to be done. We are not satisfied.
Okay.
We are tired with all these problems.
Okay.
Please.
Thank you very much, Pre.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay, just like Frank Mba was saying, all the different crises around Africa, West Africa. Remember when President Buhari actually traveled to Mali?
Yeah.
That was part of it.
It did.
So Nigerians should not forget that. They shouldn't just think that the president is not doing anything. He's trying his best, to see that these arms don't move into Nigeria. Because once there's a crisis in any West African country, it affects the first place they want to come to is Nigeria. And don't forget that most of the so-called terrorists they've either arrested or captured in recent, captured or even killed. Most of them don't even look like Nigerian.
So we have a call in from Abuja. Indeed. We have a call coming in from Abuja. Okay, Tunji in Abuja, good morning.
Yeah, good morning.
Go right ahead, please.
Yeah, thank you very much for the program. It's quite informative and educative.
Thank you.
Yeah, I must confess Mr. Frank Mba has done a very good job.
Go ahead, Tunji.
Yes, I can hear you.
Go on.
Another aspect I just want us to look at, apart from the land border, and I'm sure maybe the police doesn't want to tell us, even our seaport, still need to be looked into in the way and some of these arms actually get into the country, because it's supposed to be a collective responsibility of everybody. And I think we should be able to tell police if you have any information so that we can help them to do their job better. That's my contribution.
Thank you very much, indeed.
I think we have a whistleblower policy. So if you hear any information, there's you can take it to the DSS, to even the police. They will help out. And talking about the seaports, there was a time the customs actually busted some people trying to bring firearms into the country. Indeed. They were arrested.
And
but
remember, it depends on which one you're talking about. There was some gigantic firearms. You say, what is this? How can somebody try to smuggle this kind of stuff in? And it's not just the seaports. There's also the airports, the land borders as well. There's nowhere smugglers can't use. If they could, these people are professionals. They'll even use submarines. I just expect, I expect the police is, as they have declared, they are waiting for them. Another call coming in. Good morning, Reverend Dominic.
Good morning, Yori.
Thank you for calling in.
Good morning, Asoko.
Good morning, sir.
Yori, the police spokesperson has spoken very well. But I want to disagree with him in this one point.
Sure.
That the situation is not up to epidemic point. Yori, the situation has passed an epidemic. Few days ago, I was driving into my bus stop here. These boys, they call them whatever, coach, we are wearing these small arms as if they are carrying biscuits and granuts. So at which point will it be epidemic? Everywhere in our nation today, people kidnap at will. And these kidnappings go with heavy guns or minor guns or lighter guns. At which point? It's so common everywhere, from the north to the south to the east. It's not time we declare it epidemic so we can handle it.
Dominic,
to relax in his office, he says it's not an epidemic point. Most of us are disappointed.
Okay,
because
but Dominic,
the reason that we did not vote for Jonathan was this politician of guns.
Dominic, I tried to get some sort of perspective as to whether it had become like pure water, where someone like you, I dare say, Dominic, you would not know how to go about getting a gun, just like I wouldn't. So it is in that sense that Frank Mba was saying it hasn't reached epidemic level, but they are still concerned.
No, Yori, why you cannot get it, I cannot get it, it's a matter of will and decency. If you want a gun in Nigeria today, you will get it.
Okay.
It's as simple as that.
If you know the right questions to ask, if you know who to ask.
How is this boy, who doesn't even have heavy source of income, get this done? The issue that you and myself are decent enough not to have it.
Okay.
Now, there's some question I want to ask Police Bureau. Do governors of states have license to import guns? Because the last time, somebody submitted AK-47 to the next incoming governor in this state. I don't want to mention the state. Around those years.
I recall. You're right.
Yes. There was ammunition in the state government house.
Yes.
Who used these guns in state government house?
Okay.
If they're not licensed, I want to ask, please ask the PRO, how did state government get their guns?
Okay, Dominic, I've got to close on this particular subject matter, but I do take the points that you have made. And Mr. Frank Mba indeed is listening. So he's heard those questions, and we shall be able to come back to you on it. So that's it. We're going to have to let go of this subject now. And then there's something else. I know this is very interesting to every Nigerian, but there's something else. We also want to look at the other matter that's very, very important to us, which is oil, petroleum. Pengasin, they've ended their warning strike. What next? Stay with us. Okay, welcome back. And Pengasin we spoke about on Friday. Indeed, we even spoke with their peer publicity person. He was on the way to Abuja from Kaduna, so the network was not all that it could have been. But we spoke with him on the occasion of the final day of the 3-day strike they had embarked upon to call attention of governments to unsatisfactory, it was unsatisfactory to them, the whole salary system that they were operating, among others, right? Yeah. Now, so we're going to take it from there.
Yes. And then another issue is, I think they had a meeting with the FG delegation. Yesterday, there was a meeting, but it was deadlocked. and we are supposed to meet at 11 today. So, but we have our correspondent, Joke. Joke, good morning.
Yeah, good morning, Asuko.
Now, so the meeting is supposed with the meeting with the oil marketers, oil workers, and the federal government is supposed to start at 11. So, what do you have for us?
Okay, it looks like there are network issues, but as soon as it stabilizes, she'll be able to respond. But she's back. I understand.
Hello, Joke. Hello, Joke. At the meeting with Pengerson and the federal government is supposed to start at 11. Are you there?
Okay, we'll go to her as soon as it stabilizes a bit more.
Yeah, those issues were about non-payment of allowances and salaries, and as well as the IPPIS, which Fortune was trying to, tell us that it wasn't working for them because they were doing more than what the system was actually taking. And so the issues was back and forth.
We saw a film where they said that the minister of finance would be briefed, even though she must know already.
Exactly, but I think yesterday she met with the oil workers, but there was no headway to that meeting. So they were supposed to start another meeting at 11. And Joke, are you there now?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, so are you at the meeting? What is the latest?
Yeah, the latest is that the meeting is around now starting. When I spoke with a couple of the labor leaders this morning, they said the media will not be present, that it's going to be a closed-door meeting as they had yesterday. And so it's after that meeting that the two unions, through their presidents, will issue a joint statement directing members appropriately. So that is what we have now. They are meeting at the Federal Ministry of Finance headquarters. And so the hope is that they will be able to agree this time, knowing fully well that the meeting ended very late yesterday and it was inconclusive. But one thing that the labor leaders are saying is that the strike is still on. They have not suspended the strike, and that what they have now is that it's just to await the outcome of this morning's meeting, and so they will know their next line of action. But of course, they have not been able to shut down activities nationwide as far as the sector is concerned. But they say what they are waiting for is the outcome of the meeting this morning. And so a number of them have also called to insist that the strike is still on, that they have not suspended it, although they are still holding back, believing that the government will do the right thing in their own coin, and so they will be able to direct their members this time around appropriately.
Okay, Joke, let's understand the strike now. They are on strike, they are not shutting down. So what kind of strike is that? Is it that they are not going to their offices?
Yes. Now, what they said as of this morning is that their members, very late after that meeting, is that their members should come to the office in red attires and all that the strike continues. But because of government's intervention, they will not be shutting down activities as they have threatened, as they have agreed to do. And so what they are waiting now will be the outcome of this meeting, is what will now give them next line of action. And so what that means in their own way, that the way they have said it, is that the strike is still on, although they have not shut down activities nationwide, but that members, that they will not be they will be at work, but they will not be at their desk, that no official activities will take place, just like they had 3 days last week. And so depending on the outcome of today's meeting, they will now know what next to do, whether to now suspend the strike or to resume the strike headlong.
No, some of the officials that you spoke with, did they tell you did they add any other demands apart from the issue about the allowances not being paid or salaries, so that we know what we are dealing with, so that we don't go back to this same road?
Well, theirs is just a one-point demand,
okay.
and that is that their 3 months salaries be paid. They have said that they have issues with IPs, and that the gimmicks that they have been using, they are okay with it. That whatever government wants to do, it should understand the peculiarity of the oil and gas sector. And the analysis is that when you have two staff, even on the same level, they don't earn the same salaries at the end of the month, because their salaries will be dependent, other emoluments will be dependent on their level of productivity. And so every month, even as a staff, what you earn this month may not be what you will earn next month, depending on how well you are rated. And so they said that particular issue is not being taken care of by IPs, and that is where they have issues. They have said that they do not have any issue against IPs. They do not have any other thing against IP other than the fact that it cannot take care of the peculiarities of the oil and gas sector, and that they have seen a couple of other unions that have been having challenges where they pay them half salaries. Some of them, they do not even receive any salary. And so they will not be able to be part of the IPs. But government is insisting that IPs is the way to go. And so, but they are saying no. So that is where the bone of contention is. And that was how the government now withheld their salaries running to 3 months. And so they have decided that they will not take it any longer, particularly at this time of COVID-19, where they're also facing economic hardship, as it were. So what they have now said is that government should reason with them, they should return them to where they were, that they never had issues, that if it was about ghost workers, the government should know how to take care of ghost workers as far as the previous system that they use is concerned. So they have said they don't have any issue against IPs, but that part, the fact that it cannot take care of the peculiarities of that sector, is where they have issues with. And they have they also said that.
One moment, Joke. Sorry to interrupt you. Joke Yorifolan here. Mr. George has called in from Lagos. Let's take his question just in case you might need to comment on it. Good morning, Mr. George.
Good morning, Uncle Yori. Good morning to Azuko as well.
Good morning, sir.
Uncle Yori, you know, when you discussed this topic last week, I raised my concern as to why Pengasan is against these IPs.
Yes.
And I just listened to your correspondent now. She said one of the things they are against is that there are varieties in what they earn. When two people are on the same grade or level, one earns better than the other at the end of the month. What kind of a system is that? Those are the kind of things they don't want to be checked.
Okay.
There should be orderliness. Uncle Yori, many people are aware that the crude oil that is lifted from the high seas, the accountability is not transparent, and that a lot of it gets missing and is not calculated. It is the Pengasan people that are responsible for it. That's why they don't want to be checked. They don't want to align with orderliness.
Okay.
Let the government insist. That's my view.
All right, then. Thank you very much for calling in, Mr. George. Joke, back to you. Do you have an idea of what government thinks is worthy in IPs, and why government is, since I imagine government too doesn't want to shortchange them, it's just that they have a disagreement. So what are the things that government is saying is the reason why IPs should be the way to go?
Yes, if you recall that even President Buhari himself came out to say that every government worker must be on IPs, and that is to checkmate this the idea of curtailing ghost workers. So that basically was the idea behind the IPs, where you go enroll, data is collected, and so everybody has a fingerprint. And because no two persons have the same fingerprint, so it becomes difficult to impersonate or to claim. So it became easy at a point. We saw the figures that government was rolling out, that it's been able to weed out a number of ghost workers from the system on account of IPs. But the argument of the yes, the argument of the workers is that even now they cannot guarantee that assertion by the government, since that IPs is also contracted to a consultant who is not a staff of the government. And so it's a whole lot of technicalities as far as that issue is concerned. And the workers are saying that the gimmicks that has been in place, in practice, that they don't have any issue against it. So if it's about ghost workers, government should know how to weed out ghost workers.
Okay. One moment, Joke. Let me bring... sorry, Joke, to interrupt you again. Let me bring in Mr. Joshua, calling in from Irewale. Good morning, Mr. Joshua.
Good morning, and good morning to us, Azuko.
Good morning.
Uncle Yori, I think for both topics this morning, it is important that we up our game in terms of using technology to drive everything we're doing in this country. There's this resistance against technology in Nigeria. We can see the face of the world today. We all need to migrate from this manual, whatever. We are using the biro to fill this form, using the ledger here and there. We need to migrate to technology. So the resistance of our people to this is actually affecting them, affecting government, because it's allowing corruption to fester. And I want to appeal to government, too, that since we have technology very much around with us, they should make it flexible.
All
in
right.
cases where people have issues that are peculiar, whatever technology they are deploying should be able to handle such peculiarities.
Okay, Mr. Joshua, I'm sorry to interrupt you. I've got to interrupt you, but forgive me for doing so. It's because we've just about completely run out of time. But indeed, we did take the point you were making. And also our thanks to Joke Adisa, standing by there. Thank you very much, Joke, for contributing to the program. And really, that's our program. We don't have the time to wrap up too much. But apart from, we'll keep abreast of it, and TVC News throughout the day will continually update our viewers. So that's our program. Join us tomorrow, please, for a fresh edition. I am Yori Folari alongside Asukwa James. Do stay safe, please.